Hi, everybody. Welcome. And thank you for attending today's 12th annual presentation ceremony of the Chancellor's Award for Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and/or Transgender Leadership. I am Rob Daroff, professor, yay! Professor of Clinical Psychiatry at the VA, and I had the distinct honor of being the chair of the 2012 selection committee for these awards. In a few moments, our Vice Chancellor will introduce outstanding members of the UCSF community and present each of them with their award. As you are probably aware, celebrating and advancing diversity is one of our Chancellor's priorities for the campus. And today's award winners and nominees are an incredible testimony to just how much our GLBT faculty, staff, and trainees contribute to the campus and to the larger community. I want to thank folks who submitted nominations this year, because without you, this award would not exist. If your nominee was not selected, please resubmit your nomination next year and keep on doing the good work that so many of you are doing. So each year, the awards committee reviews the nominations, as you know, of truly exceptional members of the UCSF community. Here are the criteria that the selection committee looks at. Do they elevate the quality and status of GLBT people on campus? Do they increase the visibility of GLBT experiences and issues on campus? Do they help to create and participate in career and academic mentoring for GLBT people on campus? Do they contribute to the generation and dissemination of knowledge on GLBT health and well-being through education, research, and public presentations? And finally, do they promote and advance the admission, recruitment, and upward mobility of GLBT people on campus? In short, satisfying these criteria make these our model citizens and the stars among stars at UCSF. At this point, I'd like to ask previous recipients of this leadership award to stand. I would encourage you to check out the names of all prior awardees displayed in the lobby of the Medical Sciences building around the corner. I also want to thank members of the selection committee for your hard work on this important committee. Theirs was a difficult challenge to identify just 3 out of many inspiring nominees. Again, thank you all for coming. I hope that you'll also have a few minutes to congratulate the awardees at the reception immediately following the ceremony. And I saw that Suya got the ever-popular rainbow cupcakes for us to mark the occasion. It's now my pleasure to introduce Vice Chancellor Dr. Renee Navarro. Dr. Navarro was appointed as UCSF's first Vice Chancellor of Diversity and Outreach in December 2010. She's charged with developing and executing a strategic plan for diversity and outreach at UCSF. She serves as a campus expert on diversity initiatives and best practices and leads the effort in the recruitment and retention of faculty, students, trainees, and staff. After completion of medical school and residency at UCSF, she joined the anesthesia faculty in 1990. Since then, her career at UCSF has progressed rapidly. She's held a number of clinical leadership positions at SFGH, including acting chief of anesthesia and chief of medical staff. Her work in mentoring, diversity, and women's leadership has been recognized locally and nationally. Please help me give a warm welcome to Vice Chancellor Dr. Renee Navarro.
Thank you, Rob. What a wonderful introduction. It's such a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon. It's great to see your faces here as well. I want to send the regrets of the Chancellor, who is sad that she can't be here herself, to honor the nominees and to thank the committee for the work in selecting these outstanding individuals. This is really a highlight of some of the things that she has an opportunity to do in honoring the wonderful contributions from members of our campus community. But I will do my best as a stand-in for her. I want to really celebrate the achievements of these three individuals, Dr. Dan Karasic, Dr. Juno Obedin-Maliver, and of course Shane Snowden. The three of you really embody the history and the future and legacy of UCSF's commitment to the needs of the GLBT community in the workplace, in healthcare, and in social justice. Your commitment and your passion inspires my work as Vice Chancellor of Diversity and Outreach. The mission of our office is to build a broadly diverse faculty, student, and staff community, to nurture a culture that is welcoming and supportive, to engage diverse ideas for the provision of culturally competent education, discovery, patient care, as well as our community engagement. Your commitment and your passion is very inspiring. I want to ensure that the GLBT faculty, students, trainees, and staff thrive as you are an integral part of the fabric of what is UCSF. That will lead to making our campus an enriched and inclusive community. And it's through your work and our efforts that we can best serve our patients, and so that they're sure that they're treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve. I'd like to extend my special thanks again to Dr. Daroff and to the 2012 GLBT Leadership Award Selection Committee, to the Chancellor's Advisory Committee on Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Issues led by Dr. Michael Reyes and Ivy Coven, and to the UCSF Center for LGBT Health and Equity, directed by Shane Snowden. Now, I'm pleased to present the 2012 awards for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender leadership. Our first honoree, Dr. Juno Obedin-Maliver, is the award recipient in the Student Resident Postdoctoral Scholar category. Juno came to us from Stanford University and is a second-year resident at UCSF in OBGYN and Reproductive Sciences Department, sorry. You're waiting for that part. As a resident, she led the research and writing of a comprehensive study on the extent of GLBT-related content in undergraduate education. This paper was published by the JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, and has been widely reported on in the media and quoted and supported publicly by the Institute of Medicine, the American Medical Association, the American Medical Student Association, and the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association. Here at UCSF, Juno works to teach and mentor students, residents, and fellows on how to improve our communication with GLBT patients. She is conscious of the heteronormative language that's often used in OBGYN and educates her fellow residents on more equitable terminology. She was an instrumental member of the committee that organized the inaugural Enhancing Perinatal Care for LGBTQ Patients conference that was held at UCSF. This event attracted over 140 attendees and was a huge success. Juno has become a sought-after lecturer and recently spoke at Santa Rosa Community College on GLBT health issues. She was also a keynote speaker for the National Women in Medicine Conference in April of this year. She's currently working on an effort in the state legislature to amend the regulation requiring known sperm donors of same-sex couples and single women to freeze or quarantine their sperm for 6 months. This would ensure that women in same-sex relationships can access fertility services on the same terms as women in opposite-sex relationships. Last but not least, Juno's clinical abilities are exemplary. That's right, she's a resident. She's doing all this, and she's a resident. In 2011, she received the Julius Crevens Award from San Francisco General Hospital as the Outstanding Intern in Obstetrics and Gynecology. Juno, in your absence, we want to thank you for your continued efforts to educate the medical education leaders across the country, your colleagues, and students on effective communication and culturally competent GLBT healthcare. Let's congratulate her, and we have a video.
It's an incredible honor to be here with you. Although I'm not present to see all the faces of support out there in the audience, I feel them every day as a resident. In particular, I want to thank my mentors and fellow residents here at UCSF who have encouraged me to be myself without question and without compromise. In particular, Dr. Patty Robertson, Dr. Rebecca Jackson, and Dr. Rasha Khoury. These phenomenal clinicians, teachers, and mentors have taught and inspired me and continually surprised me that even with their own incredible accomplishments, they have always said, yes, we'd like to know more from your perspective. I also want to thank all the leaders in the Department of OBGYN who made it clear that UCSF OBGYN unfailingly stands for reproductive rights and the rights of all individuals to self-express in ways that are meaningful to them. Whether that means having children, not having children, being in a same-sex couple, or supporting individuals in completing gender realignment procedures. In some ways, it's funny that I came to be here. I actually only reluctantly came to be involved in LGBT health. I came out, as many do, in college, and soon enough after coming out, I found myself passing through one of the first major gauntlets of the medical profession, medical school applications. I hemmed and hawed about how out to be in my applications and figured I had enough to explain as a high school dropout and a former doula that the whole gay thing could sort of be there in the background. Instead, I focused on my volunteer work in the women's shelter, abortion rights advocacy, and cervical cancer research that I had done in El Salvador. I, like many LGBTQ individuals, had my professional life and my personal life, and the two weren't yet integrated. What I wasn't owing up to was that in part, this separation was about fear of recrimination, fear of not being allowed to become the physician that I wanted to be because of who I am. These fears were reinforced during the interview process when an interviewer at a prominent medical school told me to seriously reconsider my application and that no medical school would take me. Needless to say, always a little irreverent, I forged on and was lucky enough to find myself at a medical school just down the road on the peninsula that was not only tolerant of who I was, but interested in LGBTQ advocacy. It has taken some cues from the playbook at UCSF. Stanford was generally supportive of LGBTQ topics, but I wasn't yet ready to carry the rainbow flag. I was waiting to be taught, waiting to find out how to take care of myself and my community, but it never happened. There were no lectures on LGBTQ health, and I became frustrated. So my motivation grew from my frustration, and I decided to get involved. Once involved, I quickly realized that it was more than just getting curriculum into medical schools. It's about changing the culture of medicine. It's about changing culture at large. But I still had a lot of fear to overcome. At every turn, I came up against my internalized homophobia. I wondered, if I speak out about LGBTQ rights, will I be able to do international women's health? Will I be able to be a practicing physician? But there was a growing, powerful voice in my head that said, if not you, then who? When it came time to apply to residency, I was very out on my application. The way programs responded to my application demonstrated the incredible range of medical providers' comfort on these topics. In some places, they were at best hesitant. And this hesitant tolerance came across when they said the word gay as if it was a curse word. In other places, I found individual providers and institutions as a whole that demonstrated authentic enthusiasm with providers engaged in LGBTQ advocacy. Having arrived at UCSF, I'm thrilled to be at a place that is both pushing the boundaries of LGBTQ health and advocacy and continually working to improve its own environment and culture. This active and bold humility is what it takes to continually create a culture change. And I'm so honored to be part of this proud community that is constantly pushing itself to do more, to be better, and to stand up for what is right. Because, well, we're not there yet. We live in a country that prides itself on freedom and equality for all, and yet the Defense of Marriage Act still exists. And in most states, you can be fired for being L, G, B, or T. And it's not just out there in flyover country. On April 29th in Oakland, Brandy Martell, a trans woman, was shot to death when a group of men who were aggressively hitting on her learned that she was transgender. And in a much less serious affront, almost every day when walking with my partner and now fiancé, we have to endure the looks of those uncomfortable with us as an interracial lesbian couple. So I want to take this moment and have us all take all the power that's inside this room and build on the advances made by pioneers at UCSF and take it out of this room, out of this institution, and out of this little community to the community at large, and push ourselves to do just a little more, especially if you're a straight ally. Respond to that homophobic comment. Ask that 80-year-old clinic patient whether she's sexually active with men, women, or both, and have those uncomfortable conversations every day. Because one day, I want to be able to say without question to the medical students who ask me almost every day whether or not they should be out, that they should, without fear, regardless of where in the world they are going or what field they're going into. Thank you again for this incredible honor and for how you're all working to change medicine.
Here to accept her award is one of her mentors, Dr. Rebecca Jackson, Chief of OBGYN and Reproductive Services at San Francisco General. Fantastic. Wow, okay. What a pleasure. Our second honoree today is Dr. Dan Karasic, professor in the Department of Psychiatry. He's the award recipient in our faculty category. Dan served on the Chancellor's Advisory Committee on Gay, Lesbian, and Bisexual Issues from 1996 to 2000. He proposed and successfully advocated for the committee to include transgender issues, and he also recruited transgender individuals to participate in the work of the committee. Dan served on the Medical Advisory Board for the Center of Excellence for Transgender Health and chaired the mental health track of the National Transgender Health Summit that convened last year in San Francisco at UCSF. Dan's commitment to our students is exemplified by his unwavering commitment to educating the next generation of practitioners. His educational efforts have helped to foster a new generation of practitioners who not only understand transgender issues, but also provide care with respect, compassion, and dignity. Dan is a tireless leader. On a national level, he has served as president of the Association of Gay and Lesbian Psychiatrists, as chair of the American Psychological Association's Psychiatric Association's LGBT caucus, and as a member of the San Francisco Human Rights Commission's LGBT Advisory Committee. Dan has worked through the World Professional Association for Transgender Health on providing recommendations to the DSM-5 Committee for revision to the diagnostic criteria on gender identity disorder. With his efforts, the DSM-5 will no longer characterize one's gender identity as a disorder. Fantastic. On an international level, Dan has worked with top governmental leadership in Cuba to advocate for continued transgender health care as well as human rights. This collaboration, led to a talk recently given by Maria Castro Espin, the daughter of Raul Castro and the niece of Fidel Castro, here at San Francisco General Hospital. Dan, we thank you for the remarkable work that you do every day to improve the lives of those in the GLBT community at UCSF, across the nation, and across the world. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor to be here and to see so many familiar faces, so many people I have so much respect for. And thank you, Vice Chancellor, and to Rob Daroff and the committee. I came of age as a gay man and a doctor in the early years of the AIDS epidemic. This experience convinced me that for me to do my job properly as a physician, that I had to be an activist. For our patients to heal, we have to change our profession and change our society. In 1991, I was lucky enough to land here at UCSF, a place where it was possible for me to be both a physician and an activist. And for that, I have many thanks to Francis Liu for recruiting me, and to Jim Dilley, a prior winner of this award, for hiring me and for all of his support over the years. Thank you, Jim. I'm honored to be in the company of distinguished UCSF faculty members who have preceded me in receiving this award, and with whom my activism would not be possible. And I want to give one example. Lowell Tong, who's here, another prior winner of this award, wrote a report on reparative therapy when he was chair of the LGBT committee of the American Psychiatric Association in the late 1990s. I was chair of the Northern California Psychiatric Society's LGBT committee, and with the help of another Chancellor's Leadership Award winner, Ellen Holler, we wrote a draft statement that was inspired by Lowell's report. And then another UCSF faculty member, Bob Sabai, who was on the NCP, the Northern California Psychiatric Society board, helped us get the board to submit this to the APA. And in 1998, as a result of this collaboration of so many wonderful people here at UCSF and others, the APA finally passed a statement condemning reparative therapy. I'm known for my work in trans care, and I wanted to acknowledge two trans women outside of the university for inspiring me in my work. In 1993, organizing a session for the Association of Gay and Lesbian Psychiatrists when the APA was here in San Francisco on how our sexual orientation and gender identity affects our work as LGBT psychiatrists, I realized how difficult it was to find an out trans psychiatrist. I was able to find and invite Shoshana Gillick from LA, who spoke at our session 1 month before transitioning at work. After the session, she returned to Los Angeles and, on coming out as trans, was fired from her job. At that time, that was totally legal. Shoshana then moved to San Francisco, and with the release of DSM-IV, we began a long conversation on why gender identity disorder must be changed for DSM-V. Unfortunately, post-transition life was difficult for Shoshana, and tragically, she ended her life in 1999. Shoshana's obit in the Mercury News referred to her by her male birth name and male pronoun and called her a cross-dresser who hoped to have surgery to become a woman, and acknowledged her female identity and name only when quoting her daughter. The year before, for the 1998 APA, I was chairing a session on new paradigms in diagnosis and care for trans people, and had planned to have Shoshana present her proposal to replace GID in DSM-V. Unfortunately, days before the conference in Toronto, Shoshana called me and said she was too depressed to travel. I wanted a scholarly critique of GID by a trans person and to present her paper at APA, and was delighted with just a few days' notice that the author of such a paper that was written under a pen name, Catherine Wilson, that she was willing to replace Shoshana and hop a plane and come to APA. Catherine Wilson was the pen name of an engineer named Kelly Winters. At the time, she still presented as male at work for fear of losing her job. That was the start of a long friendship and spirited discussion with Kelly on how to address the conundrum of GID. It pathologized trans identity, but it and its ICD equivalent transsexualism were used to bill for trans care and as a legal basis in the US for providing hormones for incarcerated trans people. In a paper written for a book I edited on critiques of GID, Kelly suggested a distress-based diagnosis rather than one based on identity, that might be a practical alternative to delisting. We came to the belief that a temporary diagnosis for distress based on the difference between one's sex assigned at birth or ascribed social gender role and one's gender identity would allow for billing of services but be less pathologizing of trans identity. With support of the Executive Committee of the Board of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, thank you, Lynn Fraser, Gail Knudsen, Walter Bochting, and our own Jamison Green. I was able to present this proposal to the WPATH membership at our 2009 Oslo meeting, and our recommendations were at least partially accepted by APA, which will be changing GID to gender dysphoria in DSM-5, though keeping more aspects of the old diagnosis than I'd like. We're also proposing a temporary distress-based diagnosis to replace transsexualism in ICD-11, and requesting that the diagnosis be moved away from the F category of mental disorders. While I'm thanking WPATH, I'd like to thank Eli Coleman and WPATH for allowing me to participate in the creation of WPATH's new Standards of Care 7. Put a plug in for those of you who haven't read it yet. Standards of Care 7 makes clear that trans identity is part of human diversity, not a pathological state, and is a profound change in the profession's perspectives on care. The change in diagnosis and the standards of care required health professionals, cis and trans, to be activists in the service of providing better care. Before finishing, I want to thank our own activists that we're so sorry to lose, Shane Snowden. Well, we're not losing you. You're just going to another place. But for the amazing work that you've done, and it makes the honor so much more special for me to be honored in the same session that Shane is receiving her award. And I want to thank again all involved in giving me the award, the Chancellor and Vice Chancellor, Rob and the committee, Jamison Green for nominating me, and Nate Sharon for his support letter. Nate is UCSF's first out trans psychiatry resident, and I'm happy to say he's entering a profession quite different from the one Shoshana faced. Lastly, I want to thank my spouse, Ryan, for his love and support. The federal government does not recognize our relationship for the purposes of immigration, which just shows that there's more work that needs to be done. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Congratulations. Now, last but certainly not least, our final award today is in the staff category, and it goes to a UCSF trailblazer, Shane Snowden. Hope I can get through this. Shane is the director of the UCSF Center for LGBT Health and Equity. For those of you who may not know, the first version of the center emerged in 1998, when it was then the Women's Resource Center was renamed to the Center for Gender Equity. Shane was first hired into a temporary position for an LGBT pilot program, and a year later clearly recognized her brilliance, and she was permanently hired. In the ensuing 13 years, the center has become regarded as a national role model for LGBT health and equity. From the onset, Shane was conscious of the unique demographic nature of UCSF as the largest healthcare provider and the second largest employer in the city of San Francisco, with one of the largest GLBT communities in the country. Her ceaseless commitment to the GLBT community has made UCSF both a local and a national model for GLBT equity. Shane has developed groundbreaking programs to ensure that our GLBT patient community receives equitable and knowledgeable care. She's a powerful educator, ensuring that not only our students, but those from across the nation learn about the challenges that GLBT patients face, both in health disparities and in health care disparities. Shane is a passionate and skilled educator and leader. Her passion to inform healthcare professionals about how to create a more welcoming environment for GLBT people and their families has spread from UCSF to throughout the nation. With her leadership, UCSF has become the only healthcare facility in the nation to receive 5 consecutive perfect scores on the National GLBT Healthcare Equality Index. Bravo. Another one of Shane's legacies is the domestic partnership healthcare coverage for the entire UC system. She led the successful efforts to enable the University of California to offer retirement benefits to same-sex partnered employees and equal health care coverage to transgender employees, making it the largest employer in the country to do so. Shane has touched all areas of education throughout UCSF in regards to GLBT issues. She lectures and develops curriculum in each of the professional schools, helping faculty add GLBT materials to their curriculum. And for 4 years running, convening the nation's very first conference for graduate students on LGBTQI health. This interdisciplinary program offers GLBT and non-GLBT students expert education, best practices, and support for working with GLBTQI patients and their families. This is only a few of the examples of how Shane goes above and beyond to ensure that our nation's future healthcare providers are well equipped to serve the needs of the GLBT community. Shane has provided a safe haven and a welcoming community for our faculty, staff, students, and trainees, creating a true GLBT community at UCSF. Shane helped create the university's Out List, now with over 350 members. This list is a powerful vehicle for those in the GLBT community to self-identify, to connect with one another, and to become involved. Shane is well known at UCSF for her work and within the Bay Area for her efforts. These efforts were honored in 2010 when KQED appropriately named Shane a GLBT hero. I agree. Shane, your tireless advocacy for GLBT issues and your extraordinary leadership has changed the lives of so many of us here at UCSF and really throughout the nation. Of course, when your star is so bright, others see the light. And she has had her light shining very brightly for many, many years, and this has been recognized, and we're very sad to see that you're going to be leaving UCSF, but of course we wish you well. Her new position will be as the founding director of the National LGBT Health and Aging Project for the Human Rights Campaign, the largest GLBT organization in the country. This is brilliant. Congratulations. Of course, we know that you will continue to do your groundbreaking work and you'll serve as a national leader and a role model for GLBT health and equity. We just hope you'll keep taking our calls, because we're going to call them. Yes, is that a yes? You're going to take our calls? Thank you. Just wanted to get that on film. As you leave UCSF, I want you to know that you've created a legacy of inclusion, not only for UCSF's patients and its campus, but for the GLBT community in San Francisco and the nation. It's really an honor to be celebrating you today. Shane, congratulations.
Oh my goodness, I can see this is going to make the 90-second Regents comment period look easy. Oh my goodness. Thank you. And thank you so much, Renee and Rob right there. Thank you very much. Thank you to my nominators who, let's see, Michael Reyes right there and Susan Alvis Rankin right there. And I don't know if Barb French is here, but thanks to the three of you. Michael already won this award. The two of them could win this award because, of course, it goes out to allies, too. And I look around this room, and boy, everyone here could be winning this award. This is like the essence of a shared award up here today. And I also want to really congratulate the other two winners of this. Juno, amazing. Amazing woman. I loved hearing that. And I had the pleasure of working with her on that perinatal symposium that the medical center really helped put on for labor and delivery nurses all over the country. And it's also my pleasure to tag team with her around the country. Everywhere I go and speak to medical school or medical students, there's Juno also. There we are, talking. And Dan, I met Dan actually almost my first week at UCSF, the Chancellor's GLBT Advisory Committee that Lowell Tong chaired back then. And this man is, as you heard, he is a one-man, tireless whirlwind for equality. Such a trailblazer around trans health. And before that, lesbian, gay, and bi issues, not just mental health, but beyond. So it's just a thrill to be up here with you, frankly, Dan. So now I have to talk about me. And I was just thinking, I've actually stood at this podium, as a lot of you know, dozens of times over the years. But it's either been to introduce someone else, one of our fabulous speakers, or to give one of my, and I'm really missing it, one of my PowerPoints. Laser pointer. One of my PowerPoints on LGBT health. I think it's safe to say well over 1,000 students have sat in this room and heard about LGBT health inequities, anxieties, and disparities, and how you can help. And actually, my line that I open with for that is, if you don't get anything else from my talk today, at least, as you hear me say LGBT about 200 times, you'll never have to wonder which letters are they? In what order? Is it BLT? No, that's the sandwich. Here I'm with an audience that knows the letters in the lineup, and even when we mix them up and we call this the GLBT Awards, you still know who we're talking about. Oh my goodness. And what makes this talk, I mean, as Renee said, especially hard is that I'm getting it right before I'm leaving UCSF to go join the people of the Yellow Equal sign. The Human Rights Campaign, as Renee said, the largest LGBT organization in the country, but I like to think our UCSF LGBT listserv is right up there. You get that feeling on a Friday afternoon when we start burning up the wires. So this really is the essence of bittersweetness today, the mix of happiness and so much sadness to be leaving you. So trying to think about how to handle this, I decided to follow the musical tradition established by Michael Reyes last year. A lot of you remember. And I thought, I'll simply remember my favorite things, and then I won't feel so bad. So I have my list of just some of my favorite things about being here with you. And I have to start with our students. most of whom cannot be here because they're either in their last week or they're in clerkships as we switch the month to June. But I have to say it has to start with them. And when I got here, in all of our schools, there were whole years where there was just one out student or no out students at all. And I could share with you a lot of stories about those days, which Dan has talked about, and even Juno, much younger than us, if it's okay to say so, has talked about. I remember one really poignant story. This was just in my second month. I was just, churning out events, putting them out there to see what would stick and what would work. And there was a group of 3 pharmacy students, allies. I didn't have any out pharmacy students at that time. And they decided they would stand up in front of their classes and announce my events that they'd seen in the lobby, that they weren't sure would come to their attention otherwise. And they called me up after a week or so of doing that. They'd done it twice, their class announcements. And they called me up and they said, Shane, we really need to meet with you. And we got together and they said, the 3 of them, that the last time they'd made the announcement about the LGBT events, after class, a large group of other students had come over to them and had said, you do not need to be making those announcements anymore. There is no one like that in our School of Pharmacy. And we have done a lot of work since then with admissions and with mentoring and with so much else, so much more community building. And I am pleased to tell you, just looking at the School of Pharmacy alone, just 2 weeks ago, we held the now annual faculty-student mentoring dinner, 2 full, overflowing tables of out pharmacy students and alums and out faculty members and pharmacists. So we've done a lot of work just on the connecting and mentoring level. I also want to mention another of my favorite things with the students. In fact, my favorite thing to do with the students is I see you back there, and Renee mentioned this, the annual LGBTQI Health Forum for health graduate students. We have been doing this, as Renee said, for 4 years. And the first year we did it, and we have here from Sweden, someone here from the first year, Mats Christensen, amazing, previous award winner. The first time we put this on, what had happened was that for several years, I worked with students to do a 10-week elective on LGBT health. So we did that for a few years. It was going well, and we finally swallowed hard, and we thought, there are probably, we think and we hope, more people who would like to get this information about LGBT health and can come to a 10-week noontime elective. So we swallowed hard, and we decided we're going to designate a weekend and call ourselves the National LGBTQI Health Forum for Graduate Health Students. And a lot of LGBT work, especially in the early days, it's like throwing a party and hoping somebody comes. So we watched our attendance, 1, 8, 17, typical of students, the last 2 weeks, amazing. Well, close to 150 people from all over the Western United States came. And what we really loved is it wasn't just LGBT-identified students. It was all kinds of students, interprofessionally, lots of allies. And so we held that party 3 more times, and I know that will be continuing. In fact, last year was so successful, this February, it was so successful we had to cap the attendance. And I have to say, of course, we're now not only doing work in the so-called informal curriculum, like that forum, we now really are in the curriculum of all 4 schools. And not only that, but we are going out around the country to other schools and showing them what we got. And they love it. And just to mention a couple of things, a year and a half ago, we held the nation's first summit on LGBT issues in medical education. We got, again, you talk about throwing a party. Will med schools come? Because we required them to send a senior faculty member or administrator. Would anybody come? Over half the medical schools in the country came. And now we have, at the coming meeting in San Francisco of the Association of American Medical Colleges, we have a whole day of LGBT programming, and I'm producing recommendations for GLAMA. Don't you love that acronym for the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association? GLAMA. Recommendations for all health professional schools about LGBT climate and curriculum. And then we have our employees, both our faculty and our staff. I mean, you will not be surprised to hear that, of course, in the UC system, our employees up here, we are the largest LGBT employee cohort in the UC system. So I have to tell you, I have felt a sacred duty to be the loudest, most annoying voice in the UC system for basic workplace and employee equality. And I think over the last years, I think we've covered every single aspect except one that I'll mention in a minute. And just to make sure, this is something that Francis Liu, who was mentioned earlier, had me do. He said, Shane, I want you to look at every single reference to spouse in the entire staff personnel policy and the entire academic personnel manual. And I want you to make sure that every time a spouse is mentioned, that benefit or policy is equally extended to same-sex partners. And we got there. We got there. Bless his heart, Francis Liu. Oh, my goodness. I also went through, he didn't ask me this, I thought as long as I am looking at about 7,000 pieces of paper, I checked to make sure that our non-discrimination policy at UC, not only everywhere it appears mentions sexual orientation, but also gender identity. We fought too hard for those two things, for them not to appear, and I believe we have that appearing everywhere now. So as Renee mentioned, UC was the first employer in the country to equalize retirement benefits, not just health benefits, but retirement benefits. And we're still the largest employer in the country to offer transgender health coverage, every single employee. And I have to mention, we offer it to every single student in our system as well, by far the largest coverage in the country. Speaking of transgender work, two of my favorite things, being involved in the creation of our very own UCSF Center for Excellence in Transgender Health. I see James, I see Joanne, I see Michael sitting there all together. Wow, that was, wow. Woo. You know, it's not really true that like 12 people do everything, but sometimes, you see people like that, and you wonder. Also, I don't know if Steve Rosenthal is here today, but we also now have the child, there you are, Steve, the Child and Adolescent Gender Center. This is the second one in the country that's providing services to gender-different youth. And boy, a pioneer. Recently featured this work on Fox News. Neat. So Steve back there. And then there is, last and certainly not least, our medical center. Our medical center. Absolutely, no question about it, the first in the country. And yes, as Renee said, our medical center is the only hospital in the country out of hundreds that every single year on the National LGBT Healthcare Equality Index has gotten a perfect score. And that is not one of these things, that's not a meaningless, everyone gets a gold star. You have to work for that. And we did work for it. And I have to tell you, I don't know how many of you know this, but if you go to the website of the National LGBT Healthcare Equality Index, there is Mark Larrett in a video, living, breathing, looking into the camera and saying, hey, industry executives out there, you really, really need to take care of these people. It's a great video, and he's actually seen talking with Tim Kelly, another award winner who's back there. It's quite a video, and it's not just symbolic. Our medical center has really stood up beyond the HEI, beyond the survey. When no one was looking, we've really done all the right things. We've done them proactively with an inclusive language policy that hospitals all over the country are madly copying. But that's okay, we let them. And sometimes, that's a good thing, and sometimes reactively. I mean, we have the largest LGBT population in the country in San Francisco, and they're coming into us, and we're not perfect. And I just thank, especially Susan Alvis Rankin and your staff, for dealing with those complaints and those hard times so gracefully, and then turning around and saying, hey, Shane, what do we do institutionally so this doesn't happen again? So Kathy and Deb and Susan, thank you so much for that. We are actually now featured in the Federal Healthcare Innovations Database. We're the only LGBT program that's featured at a medical center, and our work is the basis for the Joint Commission's Field Guide to LGBT Care. They stole it all from us, and there's no greater honor than that. So thank you. And then finally, looking at our system, one thing I always said is I am not wanting anyway, with budget cuts, I'm not wanting anyway to leave my job until one big system-wide thing has been corrected beyond all the benefits and policies. And that is, some of you may have heard me say this, there have been 10 system-wide diversity reports for the University of California over the last decade, and not a single one has mentioned LGBT issues. And I said to myself, boy, until that changes. I'll volunteer here. That really needs to change. So last year, as part of the President's overall Diversity Climate Council, I co-chaired the first LGBT system-wide group. And that, we made recommendations for one that would exist not below a diversity council, but as a system-wide LGBT group. And Joe Castro knows this, he was part of this process. Thank goodness, and a fabulous advocate. And now our own Barb French is co-chairing the first system-wide LGBT task force. And that's something that no other system has done. And it's just a wonderful breakthrough. And Barb French, as I say, is co-chairing that. Okay, you know me, so I have to mention that there are a few things still left to do. So I almost felt, but I know I have to leave things for the next person. So I could mention a lot of things, but just very quickly, that thing I mentioned in terms of employment benefits, there are a few other universities in the country that are grossing up. Don't you love that term? And of course, what that means is, even though we got the health benefits, you know, the federal government does not consider the people we give them to our families, not our families. So I don't know about you all, but last April 15th, I wrote out a check for $3,000 to cover my partner and our son, who's chronically ill, who just desperately has used that coverage. And I would love to see, as would some other folks in the system and groups in the system, I would love to see our campus with the largest number of same-sex partner employees really get behind UC grossing up our salaries. So we're not making thousands of dollars less than the person next to us in order to give health coverage to our loved ones. So that's one system-wide thing I think our campus can really make a difference. For our students, we've done a lot in terms of mentoring, but in some of our schools and some of our professions, we've just gotten to critical mass of role models and mentors. So I would love to see a whole web of mentoring in all of our schools, connecting students and faculty, even more than we've done so far. I would love to see more transgender services, of course. Surgical, primary care, the whole gamut. We're UCSF, and yeah, we can and will do more, I know. And just something that you all on the listserv, I think, probably can get behind. Let's see if we can create a referral system for LGBT knowledgeable docs. You know, we're doing it on the listserv for each other. We've got the out list, and we can list and will list for the medical center the docs who identify as LGBT. But it's a project to ascertain, you know, beyond that, who's truly knowledgeable and welcoming for the L, the B, the G, and the T. I mean, it's a project. So frankly, Renee, I did not wrap that all up, but it would be great to have that happen. So let me stop myself, because, you know, I could go on and on with all the stuff we need to do. My real favorite thing is the community that we've built, and all of you here. And that's not just, of course, the LGBT people, but all the great allies that I see looking out here. We have a community here that is so different from any other campus in the country, and by now I've been to them all, and I know. On another campus, you know, you've got an LGBT center that works with the students, and you've got usually a small LGBT employee group, and then you've got usually a group of faculty who socialize together. And they don't come together in a room like this, much less at all the events that we hold, like the forum or the mentoring dinner. We are really woven together, as our year-end networking reception shows. Students and faculty and staff and residents and postdocs, all there together. And that plays out in so many ways. Our famous listserv, where we are so there for each other. Someone says, you know, this in April, help, I need a tax preparer who can help us to figure out what the heck to do with a California return. We are there for each other. We are there for each other finding docs. We're there for each other with Prop 8 news, I believe. There's nothing that happens with Prop 8 that we don't hear about first. Thank you, Stuart Gaffney. There's nothing, I don't know if Stuart is here. It's blinding. And we actually, Stuart, as you know, he's one of the plaintiffs for the Prop 8 case. So is Diane Sabin. I think you're sitting back there. UCSF actually has two of the plaintiffs in Prop 8. We also keep well abreast of international news, thanks to Lori Wagner, sitting back there. She's on us about everything that's happening internationally. Thank you, Lori, for that. And then I have to say, just from my point of view, there are all the little interactions where I feel the community of allies and LGBT people. We need a room at the last minute for an event. And what do you know? They find one. They find one. They say, we know that matters. The AV, maybe it's not everything we might have dreamed of and hoped for. I call in, they go, we will get over there, especially fast, because we know that these events really matter. Catering, our head of catering. The man finds rainbow tablecloths, does the rainbow cupcakes, and gives us a discount on them. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Shouldn't say that. Maybe I should have said that. Now all the... More seriously, when I call up and I say to an incredibly busy faculty member, and I think that's actually every single faculty member in this room, can you meet with a student? Can you even meet with an applicant? I've gotten an email. I've sometimes called you all and written you all in the middle of the night. Someone's coming in, got someone who's really worried about being out on their app, really worried about something that's happened to them in residency. Can you help? They're always there. I mean, always. They're always there. Sue Forstad and the human resources people, can you help with a benefits issue? Because our benefits are tangled. Can you help? They've always been there. They've gone the extra mile. And so many of you have said, look, can you come and can you speak as an out LGBT fill in the blank at this event? And you've done it. It's like, okay, Shane, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to show up because I know that it really matters. So you've really been there for the work, and you have really been there for me. And I really wish, I see folks who've come in even though I know they're on leave and vacation now. Wow, and retired. Oh, you really are here. I really wanted to thank all of you by name. I know I've mentioned some names, but I got really scared because there's so many of you. I got scared I would forget your names. So I really want to apologize in advance. There's so many of you. What I can do, what I did do, is I thought about, could I give you a little gift? And I realized I couldn't bring, what can I bring 150 of in my little backpack? And I thought, well, all know in the listserv, every Pride Month, I send out the offer on the listserv, do you all want rainbow stickers for your ID badges? Well, this month I didn't put it out on the listserv because I brought them here in person. We don't do the mailing address thing. Anyone who has somehow escaped putting a rainbow ID, a rainbow sticker on their ID, I will be standing out there, my last effort. With a little rainbow ID sticker. They will be chipped so I can still reach you at all times. It's a plan. So thank you so much for this award, and thank you so much for everything you've done. I will miss you so much after my 13 years here as an advocrat. Thank you.
I'm almost have no words. Thank you, and let's again congratulate all of our honorees. This is such a privilege and a pleasure to be here to see the incredible work in this incredible community. It makes me so proud to be a Vice Chancellor at this institution working on these issues with all of you. So thank you all again. Please have some treats.